Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Dig deep. Dig deep, boys. Tom shortstop. Looks left. Throws for Edelman. Touchdown, Patriots!
Julian Edelman has given you the lead.
That was a big-time play, Jules. Championship play. A fourth Lombardi trophy is headed to one Patriot place. Gotta believe. Gotta believe, boys. Throws down the middle for Edelman. Ball's tipped. And Julian diving for it. I got it. I caught it! Did he make the catch? He did! Crazy, I swear to God! Touchdown! And a title for the Patriots!
I can't believe it!
When I say halftime, it's going to be a hell of a story. Gotta believe.
Well, the Patriots, they're going to start their season without number 11, Julian Edelman. And we're going to start this show right now here on NFL Live. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We got Damian Woody, Dan Graziano. I'm Diana Rossini with you. 90 minutes, guys. Let's go. So Edelman will officially miss the first 4 games of the season stemming from a violation of the NFL's performance-enhancing substances policy. So what's next? He'll be permitted to take part in all preseason practices and games with the Patriots. His suspension without pay will begin at the start of the regular season and last through his team's Week 4 game at home against the Dolphins. So obviously not great news for the Patriots offense specifically that has gone through a complete makeover, it seems like, in the offseason. So, Damian, when you first heard the news that the Patriots would be without him, what was your first reaction?
Again, there's been so much turmoil, like on the field with the Patriots. Between, the losses in free agency, the suspension, Julian Edelman. I don't know if we've seen anything like this in a while from the Patriots. I mean, outside of like Deflategate, but actual football, like actual things that's happening on the football field and the roster, this offseason it's been a little weird for the Patriots for a few years. So again, for me, the Patriots, they're like a well-oiled machine. Obviously, when you're missing a player like Julian Edelman, it's gonna hurt to a certain degree. They missed him last year, but when you got Bill, Tom, I think you'll be all right.
You got Bill and you got Tom, but you're missing some players. You don't have a Danny Amendola anymore. You have Chris Hogan now who's going to take over that number 1 receiving spot. And it seems that Gronk is going to be the one that's going to have to step in here. What do you think this offense is going to look like without a Julian Edelman?
Going to need to keep Gronk healthy. That's going to be a big part of it. They have running backs they can throw the ball to. I mean, Rex Burkhead, James White, Sony Michel, who they drafted in the first round. These are guys that can help in the passing game as well as run the ball. You mentioned Hogan. And there are some other wide receivers there that really we haven't seen them in the Patriots system to any real extent, right? Philip Dorsett got a little taste of it. Kenny Britt, a little taste of it. Malcolm Mitchell hasn't been able to stay healthy. So there are bodies there that can help. The question is how they arrange them all, how they work together with Tom Brady, who has missed more off-season practice time than usual, right? I mean, the voluntary stuff is voluntary, but he is usually there. So the training camp time with this new group of receivers is maybe going to be more important than it usually is in the early weeks. So to Damian's point, you trust Bill Belichick and Tom Brady to figure it out. There has been plenty of overhaul in the 18 years that they've been together and had all this success. But, yeah, there's stuff to do here. This isn't going to be just push a button, start the season. They have to put something together.
So, Damian, when you see all these, and there are significant changes here, and you saw Dan point right to this O-line, what do you think of these guys? What do you think of this makeup here protecting Tom Brady who's going to be 41 by the time the season starts?
Well, listen, change, the one thing when it comes to football is you want consistency. You want the same guys to be together, especially on the offensive line. But there's one guy in particular that I trust more than anything, and that's offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in the National Football League. He'll get these guys playing on the same page and get them playing at a high level this year.
In terms of the receivers, the changes here, we know immediately they're behind the 8 ball without Julian, but we've seen them step up last year, as you mentioned. But do you think that this group is going to be able to create problems for defense in this division?
Yeah, I mean, they always have, right? So the question is, what do the Patriots construct here with this group? And how do they – and that's why I think you get into the coaches' minds here and try and figure out who can do what. Maybe we're looking at Malcolm Mitchell as an outside guy. Maybe they see him as somebody who works – specifically in certain packages against a certain opponent, right? I mean, nobody's better than Bill Belichick at changing the game plan week to week based on the matchup. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're in a position where they're still going to be able to stress defenses, assuming they can keep Brady protected. I think he and Bill Belichick can figure out what to do.
Is this the worst arsenal, though? Is this Brady's worst arsenal on offense here? Because we've seen him make some magic with some mediocre players in the past before. But do you think this is the worst, Day?
No, I wouldn't call it the worst. But I think the bigger point here is when it comes to Coach Belichick, I have a familiarity with this whole system. The one thing he does, he gets guys to play to specific roles.
Meaning what?
Meaning that he has a specific job for you, and he wants you to focus on that job. That's what makes the Patriots so good. They identify players, and Coach Belichick has a specific role for each guy on the team. That's why when you look at the Patriots, the sum is better than their parts because they know how to plug guys in and to do one thing specifically well. He'll have roles for all these guys that we're plugging in, and he'll have those guys playing their roles well.
And the other thing to remember is last year Julian Edelman was out all year. At this point, he's missing 4 games. He'll be back.
Yeah. Guys, get excited. The Madden ratings have been released this week. We've learned about the ratings for this year's rookie class. Let's take a look at the rookies, those top 5 quarterbacks. So here they are. We're going to go through each of them. Baker Mayfield, the number 1, or at least according to Madden, or at least at 81 here as a score. So let's take a look at the schedule for Cleveland this year. Because it's July and it's fun to do, let's take a look and see where do you think he's going to be able to get out there and step in the field? What do you think makes the most sense, guys?
I mean, look, they have Tyrod Taylor. I mean, they want to start Tyrod Taylor. They want to give Baker Mayfield as much time as he needs. And again, as we've said before, the Browns are in a unique position. Usually when that plan falls apart and the rookie starts before you want him to, it's because you've done too much losing. The Browns can't do too much losing.
Nope.
They win 1 game, they're better than they were last year. So I think they're patient. I mean, I think Baker Mayfield could be, on the bench until there's that Week 11 bye. Maybe if it's really not going well, then maybe the second half of the season when they hit the division, maybe a road game isn't the right way to do it either. Maybe it takes till Week 14.
Late in the season. Late in the season.
You say late in the season, but if they go out and let's say that they're losing, guys, we've seen it before many times, the pressure that this organization is going to feel to put the number 1 overall pick, their quarterback, out there, it's going to come down hard on you, Jackson, who could possibly be fighting for his job this season.
Here's something to watch, right? Let's say that Sam Darnold wins the Jets' starting quarterback job in camp, right? And now they come into Cleveland in Week 3, and Darnold lights it up. And then they're losing with Baker Mayfield on the bench, and Darnold was picked 2 picks later. That's where you might start to see some people go, I wonder if maybe.
I like that one. Right? That is my favorite perspective on this so far. Yeah, that's a winner right there. All right, number 2. I thought this was interesting. Lamar Jackson, Madden rated him number 2 quarterback here of these rookies over, obviously, the other 3, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. So this is going to be interesting, this Ravens offense. Let's look at their schedule, right? Assuming that Joe Flacco wins that starting job in training camp.
Yeah, which you expect.
Right.
He's rated, that rating is carried by that 91 speed, right? Like nobody else had that among the rookies. So
nope.
That inflates the overall.
Now, here's what I say about Lamar Jackson. He's going to be playing in packages right from the start.
Yeah.
Week 1. There's no question about that. Now, as far as starting for the Baltimore Ravens taking over, You would have to think something colossal would have to happen.
Yes.
With Joe Flacco for Lamar Jackson. Yeah, it would have to be injury, something crazy, but I just don't see.
I think even then, they're designing an offense this year around Lamar Jackson for 2019.
Right.
I think that's when we see
he's going to have packages this
starting
year.
Quarterback.
All right. Then the 3rd rookie quarterback ranked here. Oh, you got to put me back on my thanks, Dave. Oh,
I think it's
there we go.
I got the touch right there. Right. All right. So Josh Rosen, Madden kind of described him, or at least EA Sports described him as the overall general of all the quarterbacks, able to do a little bit of everything. So let's see how he would do based on the schedule. But, we've heard such great things coming out of camp about what he's been able to do in the competition between him and Sam Bradford. Dan, what do you think they're going to do with him?
I think they want to start Bradford. But, the alarming thing here, right, is this is the week last year where Bradford, got hurt, right? He only played one game. So if that's the thing to watch, is Bradford health there. And if that's a factor, if Bradford's hurt, then Rosen could be in position to potentially start right away. If Bradford's healthy, I think he gets to play until he's not.
Yeah, I think that one makes the most sense. All right. So the fourth quarterback, we mentioned him earlier, Sam Darnold of the Jets. Todd Bowles says that Josh McCown's the starter. He said that. But he also said that whoever the best quarterback is in camp is going to start. Leaves it open.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
Look at that. Monday Night Football.
I think I always have the saying, if they're even, he's leaving. If Sam Darnold is anywhere, if he's close to Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater, he's going to start that Monday night game. I mean, this is a guy who, throughout, OTAs and minicamp, he's been just absorbed. They've thrown everything at the whole book at him, and he's been absorbing this whole playbook. So if he comes out in training camp and he shows that he can handle the job, he'll start week one.
This is a guy who's getting compared to Andrew Luck early in that draft process. So there's certainly a lot of confidence. And from the Jets owner, he wants to see him out there because he believes that he is going to change that organization, at least put him on the right track. And finally, we got Josh Allen, who falls, we'll say, in fifth here of these rookie quarterbacks. The plans for him. Where do you see Buffalo maybe having him step out on the field to lead them as a starter?
I think he could start earlier than what a lot of people said.
Why?
Because if you look at the other two guys that they have, they don't have a lot of starting experience. AJ McCarron and Stephen Peterman.
You got Nathan Peterman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Neither one of those guys have a lot of starting experience. So you would think that they would want to, you want to sit maybe Josh Allen, but the other two guys just don't have a lot of pro experience starting for a franchise. So I think training camp, we saw what Shady McCoy had to say about Josh Allen. He raved about Josh Allen. So I could see him starting earlier in the season.
I could, but here's my thing. What's the rush? They lost 3 starting offensive linemen.
That's
right?
very true.
So if you're Josh Allen, are you in a hurry to get back there? You got the Ravens, tough defense. Chargers, tough defense. Vikings, tough defense. I don't know what the Packers are going to be on defense, but it's, another tough defense here. Look at all these road games, right, to start the season. I think you might want to wait and before you put your rookie Josh Allen in there and make sure that things are together on that offensive line. So somebody emerges at wide receiver. Oh, by the way, though, tough defense.
Tough defense. So, but at least you have a bye week.
Yeah, we'll see.
Do you agree with Madden's rankings there in terms of the way it looks?
Let's see him again. Let's see. Well, again, this is inflated by a 91 speed, right? But it was such a great player in college, so much fun to watch, built for Madden certainly, and hopefully for success in the league as well. But all
right. Well, these are the rookie quarterbacks. Right. We got to get to the running backs. We're going to do that later on. With the news that Julian Edelman will miss the first 4 games of the season, but we wanted to dive into it more and sort of take a look on how the Patriots have been so successful in scouting and finding and producing these kind of receivers. And Damon, you played under Bill Belichick. What did you observe of how he's able to find these guys?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that to me, Wes Welker is like a Hall of Fame receiver, really. And the reason I say that is because talked about it multiple times in the piece. He revolutionized the position. And Troy Brown in the piece pointed something out. You look throughout the league, there are guys littered that are like Wes Welker like. Those smaller guys that play in the slot where they run all what we call these option routes where you have two-way goes and they're critical on third downs. We talk about the flashy guys like Odell Beckham Jr., the Julio Jones, but it's those guys in the slot that they're so important because they move the chains. And then it's the guys like Odell Beckham Jr., they go out and make the touchdown. But getting back to the original question, Coach Belichick, the one thing he does is he identifies things that somebody can do well. identifies a job that they can do well specifically for the team. It's not necessarily about, oh, this guy can't fit the system. No, he identifies this player does this thing well. We will find a role for him within our system. We will manufacture a role. If that player can do something that will help us win, we will make a role for him to help our football team win. And I think that's really the edge as to why Coach Belichick, to me, is the greatest coach of all time. It's not necessarily about the system per se, but just identifying things in players that they can do well, that can work within the team structure.
I'll take it a step further. Not just greatest coach of all time, but maybe in the salary cap era, the greatest roster builder. And because he's so obsessed with the concept of value, right? I can find Julian Edelman was a college quarterback that no one was looking at as a quarterback. But Belichick saw an athleticism and a specific skill set where he thought, and you heard Bill O'Brien talk about it there, he can do some stuff for us. Figure out what it is and then where we should pick it. Wes Welker is a guy the Miami Dolphins didn't want anymore, right? Because it didn't fit what they were trying to do at wide receiver. Belichick saw Welker and said, boy, he's shifty. He's got an ability to work in an area of the field where I need help right now. So let's go get him, and I wonder what he can. So he's always on the lookout for value. And even goes back to some of the big-time guys, right? Randy Moss was an acquisition from the Raiders, and the Raiders were through with him, right? And Belichick said, well, Randy Moss, I mean, the price is so low, we have to take him right now, and then we'll see what he can be. Not even always the success stories. We've seen guys go through there when their value kind of cratered a little bit. You know, a Tim Tebow, an Albert Hainsworth.
I'll give you another one, good one. Right? Rodney Harrison. Here's a guy
that's another
the Los Angeles Chargers, the San Diego Chargers at the time, thought his career was done. Coach Belichick brings him in. Next thing you know, he's playing at an all-time high level, winning the Super Bowl with the Patriots.
Yeah.
He just knows how to eye talent and utilize it and be able to plug those guys in.
Yeah. And because when he looks, he sees his own puzzle, where the empty spots are and how this guy can fit. So not just, this guy's a good player, former first-round pick, whatever he is, but specifically, I need help here, and this is someone who can do that thing. And I think that's really, in the salary cap era, when you have to manage your resources, and you're only going to succeed if you find bargains, this is the most successful team by far, and it's because they've been so good at that.
Back here on NFL Live, it happens almost every year. One team goes from worst to first in the division. In 14 of the last 15 seasons, a team climbs all the way from the basement to the top of the division. Last year, it was both the Jags and Eagles that went from worst to first. So this week, we're going to find the teams that will be going from worst to first this season. And how about this? No division has had more teams go from worst to first in recent memory than the NFC East. Let's take a look at this, right? So 5 of the previous 6 NFC East champs won the division after finishing in last place the season before. The Giants, of course, are hoping to continue that trend in 2018. So it is up to us to figure out who is it going to be this year. So Damian, Dan, you guys are going to be the ones to help decide it. So the total here is going to be 100%. Mm-hmm. We're going to go through each team. We're going to give me what the percentage chance is of them winning the division. So we know the Giants were in last place at the end of last season. So beginning with you, D, what are the chances that the Giants win?
So I think the NFC East, I think it's going to be the most competitive division of football. Not the best, but most competitive. I have the Giants at 18%. I know people talk about the piece of, Saquon Barkley, who just a fantastic, talent coming into the National Football League. He's going to do a lot for that running game. Will Hernandez, who they drafted in the second round. Nate Solder, who they got from New England to play left tackle. They've made strides up front and in the running game to really get back to that old Giants brand of running the football. However, I can say that they might have the worst QB in the division. I can make the case.
You think Eli Manning is the worst quarterback?
We're not talking legacy here. We're not talking legacy.
We're talking 2018.
We're talking 2018 right now. 2018.
As you can see, I totally disagree with you.
He's got Pat Shermer now as his head coach. You got to figure. You see what he did in Minnesota with Case Keenum. He helped develop him out there, and
that's all fine and dandy.
Great season.
That's all fine and dandy, Diana.
I want to know about this guy. I want to know if Odell Beckham's going to be in camp and happy with a new contract. But fundamentally, the Giants were 4 games out of third place and 10 games out of first, and I just don't see why any of these 3 teams in front of them are particularly worse than they were last year. I think it's a hard mountain for the Giants to climb.
All right. Well, I actually want to keep talking about these quarterbacks here because we're to go hard on this with you, saying that you think that Eli is the worst. Well, do you think he's better than this guy? Because Alex Smith is now a Washington Redskin quarterback. Of course, he was traded there to Washington, and this resulted in Cousins leaving. He, of course, left the organization to join the Vikings, and in April's draft, the Redskins took a defensive tackle with their first-round pick. So here we are. Redskins finished the season last year at 7-9. What are the chances, Damian, that they win this division?
I'll go 22%. They've upgraded, in my opinion, at the quarterback position.
You think Alex Smith is better than Kirk Cousins?
Yes, absolutely. I think
better than Eli Manning, too.
Yeah, that's right. I think Alex Smith is an upgrade over Kirk Cousins. Darius Geis coming in at a running back, I think it will give some juice in the running game. I've always loved their offensive line coach, Bill Callahan. Defensively, I think they'll be better. So I like the Redskins where they're at right now.
Huh?
We've been spending too much time together, you and me. We're thinking along the same lines here. I think Washington should have been a better team last year than they were. The injuries were unbelievable, especially along that offensive line where they were totally shredded by the end of the year. Running back, they were down to 4th and 5th string guys. I think they have I think the 2 teams in front of them are very good or project to be very good, or else I'd put their number a little higher. But I think this is a very difficult division, and they shouldn't be a bad team.
While your numbers aren't too far off here, do you think the Redskins are significantly better than the Giants or just marginally better than the Giants?
No, I think like marginally better than the Giants. Marginally better.
All that Eli hate you got going on today.
Don't be mad at me. I'm just calling it. That's how I feel,
How about the Dallas Cowboys? Missing the playoffs with a 9-7 record last season. Of course, Dallas said goodbye to a pair of longtime Cowboys. Des Bryant was cut. Jason Witten announced his retirement. He's one of our colleagues now. And in an effort to give Dak some weapons here, they signed Allen Hurns and Tavon Austin. So the Cowboys here, what are the chances, Damian, that Dak is going to come back and have a good third year? Of course, Zeke back in there. But what do you think the chances here that they win this division?
25%. You already hit it on it, right? Get Zeke back for 16. You know what Zeke does to the Dallas Cowboys?
What?
A lot. A lot. You have him for the whole slate. Dallas offensive line, one of the best. You can argue that they might have the best offensive line in football. They're going to play ball control, time of possession, which is going to keep their defense fresh. We've seen what happens when they keep that defense fresh. From 2 years ago, they are a top 10 defense. So that's the formula. And that formula right there, you can pack it up, take it anywhere, and be successful.
Do you think Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Eli Manning?
Right now?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
We're going to quit this today.
I don't agree with that, even though I like Dak Prescott. But, again, I'm pretty close to agreeing with Damian. It almost feels like somebody got somebody's list and just made some minor changes. I don't know who that would have been. Who did it first?
You did.
First. I did?
You did.
You did it first.
Was he copying off my paper?
All right,
Cowboys were 9-7 last year. That was their bad year. That makes them a scary team.
That's enough for you?
If you're 9-7,
that's a bad year.
In your down year, where your best player has to miss 6 games because of a suspension,
you're all right.
Makes you a scary team.
You're okay.
All right, let's go with the Super Bowl champs. Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, so we know the big story here is going to be that quarterback spot, right? Because the health of Carson Wentz recovering from that torn ACL. Well, Wentz and the Eagles are hoping that he can be ready for the season opener. That's going to be against Atlanta. And, of course, they made some notable moves, including the trade of Michael Bennett and losing LeGarrette Blount to the Lions in free agency. So what are the chances, D, that you think that Philly is going to win it again?
35%.
35%. So you're thinking no division hangover, no Super Bowl hangover?
Could happen. Could. But, listen, defensively, I think they got better. They can literally rotate waves of guys to get out the quarterback. Not many teams in the league can do what the Philadelphia Eagles can do defensively. Offensively, They got one of the best offensive lines. They got a quarterback situation that a lot of teams probably envy to have.
Oh, yeah.
So right now, going into it, Philly's the team to beat in the division.
All right, Dan, what do you got?
Well, I agree. I mean, the problem is no one's won this division 2 years in a row since the Eagles did it 18 years ago, right? So I'm sorry, 14 years ago.
Yep,
18, 14. So this is high praise to pick them to repeat because that's a very, very difficult thing to do in the NFC East. There's just nothing not to like. I mean, if you believe that Nick Foles can do what he did in the playoff run, then you're not worried about Carson Wentz maybe not being ready to start the season. And also, by the way, Wentz apparently looks fantastic, and there's a chance he might be able to do it. So we'll see. I mean, look, teams that win the Super Bowl have a lot of things go right for them, and you can't always assume that the same things will go right the following year. That's why these predictions are fairly
They're
useless.
predictions.
You guys had it close.
But yeah, we see this as a tough division.
But I still think the most interesting part of what we're talking about here is just the fact that Dee thinks that Eli Manning is the worst one in this division. But Dan, from your perspective here looking at this, I mean, do you think that Nick Foles is better than Eli Manning? Do you think that Carson Wentz is better than Eli Manning?
Would you rather have Wentz right now, given their relative ages and the year that Wentz just had before he got hurt? Of course, but you can't. I mean, you got to respect Eli Manning as a player who has never missed a game due to injury.
That's true.
And who how many teams would kill for a quarterback who either one of these things, either he's not going to miss any games or he can win you a Super Bowl. Giants have both. He's both. So until it's time to say goodbye, I think we owe him that respect.
Do you want to change your mind? One last shot?
Nope. Stand by what I said.
I didn't expect him to.
Yeah. We're not very good debaters. We didn't change his mind, though.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure? Low coolant? Time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Back here on NFL Live, the league has handed down multiple suspensions over the last few weeks. We've spent lots of time on this show discussing Julian Edelman's suspension, but there is certainly a lot more out there. You see him right there. So the San Francisco 49ers, they're going to start their season without linebacker Reuben Foster. He's been fined and suspended without pay for the first 2 games of the regular season for violating the NFL's conduct and substances of abuse policy. The violations stem from a weapons offense and a misdemeanor drug offense, both of which were resolved during the offseason. So he's going to miss the games against the Vikings and the Lions, and he will be back on September 17th. So, Dan, how different is this 49ers team when Reuben Foster is there and when he's missing?
Well, Diana, they didn't win a game without him last year. He played 10 games. They were 6-4 in those games, and he was healthy for the second half of the season when obviously they played a lot better. So, he solidifies things for them in the middle of that defense, which is, a young defense still kind of putting itself together. And he can make so many different plays for them that they can use him in a variety of ways. So they'll be happy to get him back in Week 3. I think this is probably a shorter suspension than they might have been worried about when the offseason began, honestly.
And he remains eligible, to participate in preseason games and training camp before he has to serve the 2-game suspension. Meantime, out in Green Bay, running back Aaron Jones has been suspended without pay for 2 games for violating the NFL policy and program for substances of abuse. The suspension stems back from early October 2017. That was an arrest. It was marijuana related. He pled no contest in February. So that sort of brings a stop to that 3-headed monster of running back by committee there. So, Damian, what does this Packers offense look like without Jones?
Well, obviously, they finished in the middle of the pack last year, but you would think that a team with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback will be able to muster up more from their running game. So, obviously, they have Ty Montgomery, but, this Aaron Jones is another body that's going to be missing for the first 4 games. But they need to some way find a way to muster up more from the rushing attack. You got maybe the best quarterback in the league. You should be doing better in the running game.
Is it a time for the Green Bay Packers to get a really good running back? It just seems that's a hole in their offense, and it has been for years. How much better could they be if they find a guy who can really play that position well?
They would be doing very well. They would be doing very well because we know so much of the load is on Aaron Rodgers' shoulder. He does so much. So at some point you would think that we need to get a elite back to help complement Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position.
Yeah, all right, well, that's just the start of it. There's more out there. Of course, we were talking about this all last week, and that being Jameis Winston. He's been suspended for the first 3 games of the regular season for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. This stems from a female Uber driver accusing him of groping her back in Scottsdale, Arizona in March of 2016. So Jameis Winston out for the first 3 games of the season, and you take a look at that schedule and you see what they're up against, and then you have to wonder, are the Bucs already headed for a losing season without having Winston those first 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, the deck was stacked against them anyway. 3 playoff teams in their division and a lot of ground for them to make up. And now you think, well, they're not going to have Jameis Winston for the first 3 games. If they had a chance to steal 1 or 2 of those very, very tough games in their first 3 weeks, that's almost all the way out the window, you would think. So you look ahead now, what it means for the future of that team, for the future of Jameis Winston. The way he plays, and of course, the way he avoids further off-field trouble once he returns from his suspension, will say a lot about his chances to continue to be the franchise quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2019 and beyond.
Yeah. All right, let's stay in the division. The New Orleans Saints, Mark Ingram suspended for the first 4 games of the season after violating the league's performance-enhancing drug policy. He'll return for the Monday night game against the Washington Redskins, which should be a good one, especially after they got that big win against them last season. So Ingram was out for the first 4 games, and you have to wonder when you take a look at this offense. He was so productive last year with Alvin Kamara. Their entire offense looks so much different and better now that their running game is on. How does Sean Payton figure out a way to keep the running game where we saw it last year if they don't have Mark Ingram for the first 4 games?
Well, it's not a bad fallback when you got the Offensive Rookie of the Year in Alvin Kamara. I mean, I just call him an offensive weapon because you can utilize him in so many different ways, not only traditionally at running the ball, but, I mean, when you split this guy out, coming out of the backfield, there's really not many guys in the league that can cover him out of the backfield. So the cover is definitely not bare for the New Orleans Saints. They have weapons all over the field, and obviously Alvin Kamara will be featured in that Saints rushing attack.
Yeah, they do, and you heard during camp them talk about how they're not going to actually increase Alvin Kamara's touches on the ball. They don't want to do that to him, but it'd be interesting to see if they find a veteran who's unemployed at this point who will maybe join that New Orleans Saints team come training camp. In 14 of the last 15 seasons, a team climbs all the way from the bottom to the top of the division. Last year, it was the Jags and the Eagles. They were in last place the year before that, and they finished in first. So this week, we're going to find out the teams that are going to be going from worst to first this year. So the AFC East, this is what it looked like. The Patriots won the division for the 9th straight year. The Bills in second. And the Jets finished in last at 5-11. So the Jets, what did they do, though? Well, they added quarterbacks. They signed Teddy Bridgewater. They drafted Sam Darnold. And their biggest departure was releasing Muhammad Wilkerson after 7 seasons with the team. So Dan and Damian here with me. And what they are going to do for us is they're going to give us a percentage chance of this team actually winning the division. So let's start with the Jets. Dan, you begin us. Wait, are you finished? Or
That's it.
That's it?
I don't do zeros.
A 1% chance?
Yeah, I don't do zeros. That was a rule I arbitrarily made up on Monday, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a rebuilding team. I mean, even if Sam Darnold does play early, even if McCown has to play while he gets ready, even if Bridgewater wins the job, there's questions at wide receiver. I kind of like what they're putting together on defense, but the offensive line is going to need some work before this is ready to contend. I just think this is a team that, and I think it's a team that knows this, is a couple of years away from really making a splash.
What if Tom Brady gets hurt early on in the year?
Tom Brady gets hurt, all bets are. Would you redo all the percentages and all the pie charts when people start getting hurt? But at this point, it's July 5th. People are healthy.
I'm going to give a little bit more of a bump. I'll go 10%. I'll go 10%. I actually think that the weapons that they have offensively, a little bit underrated. They get Quincy Enunwa back this year. Mm-hmm. A couple years ago, he did pretty well. Go with Robbie Anderson, Jermaine Kearse. Quarterback situation is a lot better in years past. Yeah. I think this is the first time in a long time for the Jets where they actually had legitimate hope at the quarterback position. Defensively, they have some really nice young parts on the defensive side, but in order to dethrone that,
That's a big part of this.
Right.
That's a big part of this.
To dethrone that,
right.
You're going to need more a lot more to dethrone that.
Well, do you think the Miami Dolphins are going to need a lot more? Because last year they decided to part ways with two of their best players, right? They traded Jarvis Landry to the Browns. They released Ndamukong Suh. They were able to sign Danny Amendola away from the Pats in free agency. And they picked up Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they made some changes here. Maybe some good, some bad here. So what are the chances they win the division?
I might be trying to make a point.
Yeah, I see what you're doing.
The division, if all the stuff the Dolphins did works and it's a weak AFC and you can have a 9-7 wildcard team, could they surprise us and get up there? Sure. Win the division? I don't see it. I mean, a lot of losses, and I don't think they made themselves better at any of those positions.
Damien? Or?
I think they're going through a culture change. They had some big-name guys that they got rid of. Didn't seem like it meshed very well. Seemed like they almost hit a little bit of a reset button in Miami. So, 4%.
Well,
so, like I said, again, contend with that. Going to need a lot more.
Yeah, well, the last time the Dolphins won the division, it was back in 2008. They're actually the last team to win the division since the Patriots did it. So
Brady got hurt in week 1 and missed the season, right?
Yep.
All right, how about the Buffalo Bills here, all right? So they finished 9-7 last year. They stopped their 17-year playoff drought. They traded Tyrod Taylor to the Browns. They signed A.J. McCarron. And, of course, their biggest splash was trading up to take Josh Allen 7th overall. So where do you guys have him? A 1% chance.
I'm not putting zeros up there.
Okay.
I'm not doing it.
Real.
I'm not upset about the lack of zero. I'm upset about
I feel
the
like
lack
I know
of
who's
two.
going to win the AFC East. That's what I'm trying to say. They made the playoffs last year, but I don't think they meant to. Right? I mean, like, remember when they benched Tyrod and put Nathan Peterman in? They were still in the race, and they're like, oh, yeah, I guess we are still in the race.
Well, we still have a chance? Well, let's go for it. Why not?
This is a team that's trying to take a step back to take a big step forward, and I think a lot of these teams, especially these two, are thinking about how much longer the quarterback has left here, and do we want to be in position to ramp up once that whole run is over.
Right.
Damien?
6.
Okay.
And I'm just strictly giving them that because off of last year a little bit. The fact that Sean McDermott came in, changed the culture. I think guys know what the expectation. Go to the playoffs first time since 1999. A little bit more optimism in Buffalo, but there's been a lot of change. Offensive line, the quarterback position. I mean, those are two really key positions on a football team. So, like Dan said, I think Buffalo kind of took a step back in order to try to take a couple steps forward next year.
Yeah.
Sort of build it the right way.
Build it the right way.
To, sell out for 1 year.
And they have a challenge because 5 of their first 7 games out on the road. How about New England? I mean, take a look at all these departures. They traded Brandon Cooks to the Rams. Deion Lewis, Danny Amendola, Nate Soldier, see you later. Free agency, they left. Malcolm Butler signed with the Titans. So that probably marked the most notable departure on defense. So since their run of 9 straight division titles began in 2009, the Patriots have won 18 more regular season games than any other team during that span. So that said, Dan, what do you got?
Well, 97, which is the highest you can get on my particular scale.
So
I don't do zeros. So, I mean, look, yes, they lost all those guys. But, I mean, A, who's going to challenge them? And B, we're betting against Brady and Belichick in the AFC East. I mean, the 1 year they didn't win it was the year that Brady got hurt week 1 and missed the season. So they're as sure a bet as there is in a very uncertain NFL.
And I'm probably not even doing them justice with that.
That's a huge number.
Yeah. I mean, listen.
That's because you gave those.
It's a virtual lock for the Patriots to win the AFC East. I mean, they've dominated this division like no other team has dominated their division in pro football. When you got a combination of Belichick, Brady, I think these other teams are basically just waiting them out.
All right. Well, I'm glad you said that because my question for you, Dan, is the post-Tom Brady era, which team in this division is built to win? Who's got the best shot once Brady's out of here?
You got to tell me which of the rookie quarterbacks is better, and then there's your answer,
there
right?
If
Sam Darnold's better than Josh Allen, then that's your answer, and if vice versa, then the Bills are your answer. I do like the way the Bills are building it, to Damien's point, in terms of trying to the head coach is getting the guys he wants in there and all that stuff, but a lot of work to do. This team probably a little closer, but it's going to come down to quarterback.
It's going to come down to the rookie.
Let's take a look at this, or at least from a big picture standpoint. Our little pie graphs here. I feel like I'm back in 6th grade.
That's a thing of beauty right there.
Yeah, Dan, yours looks just like a full moon.
Yep.
It just announces.
Damien ate one slice of pizza. That's basically what it looks like there. But obviously, the tone here is that the New England Patriots are once again going to win this division.
I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.